can feel it how we leave through. It's all about the youth. Change the world through the tunes. Make the world to a better place. And S works what we do.
Social works, social works, social works, social, social works, social works, social works, social works. Keep my family out the dirt. This organization we stepping on Satan and open, my we call it Sworks. Action on Taylor the killer verses. I do on my feet, my city hurt. They killing our babies, this work going crazy. I pray for my city to reimburse. Private schools for the kids. We the city and we litty. All I know is a swerve. With the heart, keep it busy. Know the life keep it tricky, but please just let me finish. Let me just be a witness. S works handle business.
Social works, social works, social works, social. Social works, social works, social works.
Ready or not, here we come. South side, west side, east side, north side. Up on the run, we ain't for the none. We came in the party, we in for the fun. Celebrate life, the party we young. Sky is the limit, we looking above. We up in the sun, no matter what, we stay on the run. Ha, S work, do your thing. S work, keep it lit. Bullseye, keep your aim. Yeah, we up on the jib. North side, that's the way. Ready or not, here we come. S work, keep the energy. Look, yeah, we never unplug. S work, show some love.
Social works, social works, social works, social, social works, social works, social works.
Sworkshops are a series of online workshops featuring the many incredibly talented friends of Social Works. This series aims to inspire and educate, bringing local and national creatives live to your smartphone. They will be sharing and teaching specific aspects of their craft. A wide variety of professions, interests, and hobbies are represented within our curriculum. Did we mention it's a fundraiser too? The stay-at-home notice has students wondering what's to come. For some, graduation and prom will both be canceled. This campaign will directly fundraise a celebration event for those students within the Chicagoland area. Once it's safe, of course. Tune in to any of our socials for one or all of the Sworkshops. You can find the full schedule of programming at socialworkshy.org or on our Instagram. Classes start Monday, April 13th. We'll see you there.
Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Vince DeSantiago. I'm a photographer and creator from Chicago, Illinois. I've been working with Social Works on event photography and stuff like that for the past 2 or 3 years. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but today we're going to run through how to shoot, develop, scan, and edit film photography at home. So real quick before we get started, if you want to know anything more about me, you can hit me on Instagram at Vince DeSantiago, DeSantiago. And I want to remind you that you can go ahead and donate to Social Works for this cause right here. I believe I'm pointing at it correctly, hopefully. All right, so real quick before we get into the developing part, film photography is a lot different in a lot of ways than digital photography. It's a lot less forgiving. It's a lot slower of a process. But in the end, I think it's that much more rewarding because of everything that goes into it. It's not as forgiving as digital. So, and also, forgive me, please, if you hear my crazy son in the background screaming. He's on a tirade tonight. So, all right. So, before we get into, I'll talk more about the camera itself and how all that exposure and all that stuff works while this is developing, because this takes about 10 minutes to develop. This is not, I'm gonna, so first off, I'm showing you how to develop black and white. I do not know how to develop color, not sure. So this is the film that I use whenever I shoot black and white. This is an Ilford HP5. It is an 400 ISO film. I typically shoot it at 1600. Again, we'll get into that later. This is just an old, not very good roll of film that I'm gonna use in order to show you how to load the film onto this reel. I already put a roll of HP5 in here because obviously film is light sensitive. You have to do that in either a completely dark room, or you can buy one of these blackout bags where you basically put everything you need to put the film into this canister in this bag, and then you put your arms in and you do everything you need to do, loading the film and putting it into the canister in this black bag. You can't see any of it, so it's all by feel. That's the last time you'll see this loud bag, don't worry. Okay, so first step is opening the canister of film. So, and also, if you have any questions, feel free to ask on Instagram or if you're on the website, and I'll be answering them. I have them up right here, so I'll be answering them as we go. So I use a wine opener to kind of pry the bottom off. And it's not the easiest thing to do. So there we go. All right, so you pry the bottom off and you push the film out. So now, obviously, I'm not going to be able to use this film again. It's ruined now because it has been exposed to light. So basically what you do is, you can see here that it has a little cutout here. You want to take a scissors, and just a reminder, this is all inside the bag. You cut off the little piece and toss it. These reels have a feeder here. So basically what you want to do is you slide the film in, and then the nice part about these is it just twists and feeds itself. Now this is going to be a little strange, but yeah. So as you twist, it's feeding itself onto the reel. And you can kind of see it taking up there. Once you get to the end, it gets a little tougher as you get towards the end of the roll. So once you get to the end, you have this little spool bit here. You have to cut that off. So you just take your scissors again. You snip it and don't cut your finger like I almost just did. And then you just kind of finish that. So now that's fed onto the reel. You can kind of see the film inside there. Now, if I was actually doing this, I would unscrew this part, pops out, and you just pop it in there, put the thing back in. So we've loaded the film on the reel. We've put it in here. Now, there are typically 4 chemicals you need to purchase to develop at home. The first is a developer. I use Ilford Ilfitol DDX. It's made by the company that makes the film I use, so that's why I use it. This is the developer. This is what makes the image show up on the film. The next step, and it's one that is technically optional. I used to do it. I don't do it anymore. It's called the stop bath. It stops the film from developing. So when you introduce that chemical into the canister, it'll stop the developing process. Like I mentioned, I don't do that anymore. You can either use a stop bath, and that takes about 30 seconds, or you can just run it underwater for about 2.5 minutes, maybe 1.5 minutes. It really depends. And that will also stop it. All the stop bath does is stop it quicker. The third chemical is called a fixer. This is basically like a sealant, if you will, for lack of a better term. This we use for about 3.5 minutes after the fixer. And then once you rinse it off, this is also, actually, technically, this is also optional. This is called a wetting agent. It just minimizes water spots on the film while it's drying. So, one of the most important parts of developing film is the temperature. Now, black and white is a lot more forgiving than color. Color you need to keep at a perfect temperature. Black and white, you can, there's wiggle room. So ideally, your chemicals are at 68 degrees Fahrenheit. I already added water into my beakers or carafes or whatever you want to call them. So for one roll of film, you use 240 milliliters of 68 degree water and 60 milliliters of developer. So I already put 240 milliliters of developer. Oh, hi, Sammy. I agree. Film will never die. Where can I find these chemicals to purchase? Good question. Chemicals to purchase you can buy on B&H Photo. That's bhphotovideo.com, I believe. Or if you want to shop local, which I totally suggest you do, there's a place down the street from where I live. It's called, oh crap. It's called the Pursuit Supply Company, I believe. It's on Irving Park, just west of the highway. That's a good local spot. You can also, I believe you can also buy some at Central Camera downtown as well. There's probably other places. I'm sorry if I'm skipping places that actually sell it. Yeah, but the place down the street from my house, it's where I buy my chemicals, is called the Pursuit Supply Company. Why would I want to use a stop bath? Why would you want to use a stop bath? It's just faster. It will save you 1.5 minutes of your life. Other than that, that's really the only benefit. What are the benefits of developing at home is another question. Money. It costs a lot less to buy this stuff and do it at home yourself than to send it off to a place to get developed. I sent it off to get developed for a long time, but I learned how to develop in college. So when I started shooting a lot more and more film, I started developing at home. All right, so I'm gonna fill this up. I have a food scale that I use to get all my numbers right. I'm not gonna use. I only use it for the water, really. These beakers also have, and forgive me if these aren't actually beakers. They have little tick marks on them, so I just fill it up to 300. All right, 1 sec. All right. I just noticed that I might have messed up the numbers, so forgive me for a second. No, I didn't. Unless maybe I did. Let's see. That's weird. Okay, so that was to 160 apparently. which would put me over. All right, so I messed this up somehow, unfortunately. So I have a meat thermometer here. I'm gonna dump. Oh, also, side note, all of these chemicals are safe to pour down the drain. They will not harm anything. Don't worry. So I have a meat thermometer that I use to take the temperature of my water. If you really want to get fancy with it, you can get a sous vide. That is like a wand that keeps your water at a specific temperature, like it heats it up. It's pretty cool. I don't know how I came up short on this, so I apologize. So I'm gonna fill this up, but now you get to see the whole process. So I'm gonna fill this up to 240 milliliters. All right, and then this should be filled up to 240 as well. I started pouring, and I was like, that's a lot of space for some reason. All right, we're there. We're at the right amount. I'm glad I caught that. That would have been bad. All right, so now we're gonna fill up to 300. Ooh, put in the right one. I have these marked, developer and fixer, so I don't mix them up like I almost just did. I'm looking real silly right now. That's 240. All right. Okay. Yep, there we go. And then, so that's the developer. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill the fixer while we're at it. Where can I buy the beakers? So you can buy the first haul you want to make would probably be on B&H Photo Video, bhphotovideo.com. That's where I purchased all my stuff right off the bat. All right. This is a little mixer. Also bought it on B&H. You just go in there, mix it up, rinse it off. Switch over to the fixer, mix it up. Rinse it off. Okay. Okay, now we're moving. Clear my station a bit. That's the last time you need that. All right. So, because you want to make sure your temperatures are right, I take my temperature again before I actually put it in, and I'm right there. 69 degrees, 68 degrees. We did it. All right. I also use this thermometer to cook pot roast and various other food items. Okay, so here's the fun part. What are the benefits of developing at home? I answered that. Why do you stick to black and white film development at home and not color? The reason I stick to black and white film development at home and not color is because color is a lot more finicky. I've been thinking about delving into that, getting into that, but that would definitely call for a sous vide. I would definitely need a sous vide if I did that. Ariel Zartz on Instagram says, heckin' cool shirt, bro. Thank you. I just got it in the mail today from Joe Freshgoods. I'm super stoked on it. Anonymous says, what if I get some in my eyes? Good question. If you are worried, if you got some in your eyes, I would just flush with fresh water for as long as you can handle. Another thing you can do is wear glasses. Would probably be a good, like a safety glasses if you're worried about that. I'm not really like in situations where splashing happens a lot, but okay. So we're going to develop this. This is a 400 ISO film, like I mentioned, but I pushed this specific roll to 800. So I have to develop it. I'm going to have to develop it for longer than you would have to if I shot it at 400. And again, I will explain that more. All right, so if you can see here, it has a little hole in there. That's how the chemical gets down to the spool. All right, so I'm going to pour this in. Start my timer, 10-minute timer, and then this cap pops on here. And then you want to agitate every minute for 10 seconds, but you don't want to shake it. You just want to turn it slowly. And then tap it. And then that's going to sit for a minute. And then on the minute, every minute you agitate for 10 seconds. So now is when I'm gonna answer answer questions and also go over film photography. Janae Lien is a very dear friend of mine. She asks, how long does this process normally take you? Depending on what I expose my black and white film at, so development usually takes about 13 minutes if I'm shooting at 1600 ISO. And then, I'm supposed to agitate. And then the stop usually takes 2.5 minutes. Fixer takes 3.5 minutes. And then the rinse takes about 5 minutes or so. So that's what? That's about 25, 30 minutes or so. But again, the developing time changes if you expose your film at a different ISO. So again, this is the film that I use. It's as you can see on the box, it's a 400, says it on there somewhere, I believe. 400. Ilford HP5 plus 400. So this is a 400 ISO film. If you shoot digital, you know ISO from your camera. You can set it at whatever you want, and you can shoot on one SD card at whatever differing ISOs you want. Everything's fine. Not the case with film photography. So you can shoot at what's called box speed, which for this would be 400 ISO. Or you can push the film, which is, instead of rating it at 400, you can rate it at 800, 1600, 3200. You can go beyond that, not really recommended. And it allows you more wiggle room for if you're in a darker situation and you have a roll of, if you want to shoot a roll at 400, but you're in a dark situation, you can rate it at 1600, so you can have a little more sensitivity in a dark space. When you can only rate a roll of film once. You can't be switching back and forth, like throw this roll of film in at 400 during the day and then go halfway through it and be like, oh, it got dark out, let me switch it to 1600. That's not how it works. Can't do that. Once you start shooting at a certain ISO with a roll of film, you have to stick to it. You put a new roll of film in, you can rate it at whatever you want, but that's what you're rating it at for the whole roll. You will become more sensitive to light as you push your film higher and higher. You can also pull film, which means this box is a 400 ISO. If it's really, really bright out and you want to pull it to 200 or 100 ISO, you can do that too. It kind of washes out your film a bit. You'll get a very like washed out blacks. But if you need to do it, you need to do it. I personally, I always, am almost always shooting Ilford HP5, which is a 400 ISO film at 1600. Even during the day, I have a little ND filter that I screw onto my lens so that it darkens up the information coming through the lens. So yeah, let's see, questions. Ben5124 on Instagram asks, why do you prefer doing this longer process rather than the Cinestill monobath that only takes 3 minutes total? I have never heard of that, to be completely honest with you. I'm wondering, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm wondering if that is only viable for Cinestill products. I don't know. I'm gonna look that up though. But I will say that I prefer to use the chemicals that correspond with the film I'm shooting. So I usually use Ilford. So I use Ilford chemicals. How much money for an average film roll? So Cinestill is about $5-ish a roll. I buy it in bricks of 10 on Amazon. It's like $60. So I take that back. It's like $66 a roll. You can get cheaper rolls of like this roll of Kodak Color Plus is like $2.50 a roll. And then I have some rolls of film in there that are like $10 a roll. I have a roll of film in my fridge that's like $16 a roll. So it's varying. I will tell you that the Darkroom Lab, I believe their website is just thedarkroom.com or thedarkroomlab.com. They have a very good index of a bunch of different films, pricing, ISOs, color, how color looks. It's a very comprehensive list, index of films. How do you transfer your developed film to print and/or digital? Well, Anonymous, we will be going over that after we develop this film. I'm going to show you how to scan and edit the photos. Let's see, what camera bodies and lenses do you shoot with? So for film, I have, if I'm just like bumming around with my son around the neighborhood right now, especially, I have a little Contex T3 it's just a little point and shoot film camera that I use. I'm not talking to you, Siri. Sorry. This is my main film camera. This is a Leica M6 TTL. It's my favorite camera that I own. I have a few lenses for it. This is a 28mm Voigtlander 28mm f2. I also have a 35mm Leica Summicron, which is also an f2. I have a Leica Summicron 50mm, also f2, and I have a Zeiss 21mm 2.8. So those are my 4 film lenses. A good beginner camera is something you can go to, and this is another one of the questions. What is a good beginner camera? Good beginner camera, probably you can get like a Canon AE1 or a Olympus OM1, OM2. I have an Olympus OM2S that I used almost exclusively for film for a very long time. It was my dad's. He gave it to me. So I really learned throughout my childhood and college how to shoot film on that camera. It's an SLR, single lens reflex camera. This is a rangefinder. That's a whole nother beast to tackle the differences between those. But yeah, those are that's the body and the lenses that I shoot with. That's Anonymous's question. Another Anonymous also has another question. Do you have a blog? I do not have a blog. I have my Instagram, which is at Vince DeSantiago. And I also have a website, which is vincedesantiago.com. let's see. How do you exhibit your work? I put a lot of my work on Instagram. I did a couple gallery shows in the past 3 or 4 years, but I haven't done one in a while. I should, though. Okay, so we are coming to the end of the 10 minutes. So about 30 seconds before, which is right now, you want to open up your tank and pour out the chemicals. Again, down the drain is fine to do. It's not going to hurt animals or fish or any municipality's water supply. And then, so again, you can expedite this process by using a stop bath. I personally do not use a stop bath because I am a freelance photographer, and any amount of money I can save, I save. And yes, I'm stopping my timer with my nose. This is really cold. All right, so this is gonna rinse, and I gotta hold it here because I'm cheap and don't want to buy a hose. But this is gonna rinse for about 2 minutes. So, does it agitate you how long it takes to develop film? No, it does not. It's like semi-therapeutic in a way. I enjoy it thoroughly. I really enjoyed it when I was in college and I was in a darkroom doing it with other people. It was a lot of fun. It was definitely my favorite class I took in college. So yeah, keep the questions coming. I have like a minute and a half more of just standing here with my head cut off. There, you can see me better now. ATR Scraps from YouTube. Let's go. We are excited for this. Thank you, ATR Scraps. I am too. I'm also getting my computer slightly wet because it's sitting here. So let's see. What can I talk about while I'm letting this rinse? Are there any questions? How do you know when it's done? How do I know when it's done? Good question. I just do it for 2.5 minutes. And that's how I know. I'm looking at my watch. It's all times. It's all about time. Obviously, you can't look at the film while you're doing this process, or else it can mess it up. So it's just, you got to know your times. Ilford's website has a good amount of information, PDFs, and stuff like that, that tells you how long you should do things. All right, so that's about it. That's it for stopping. Now, you empty it out. Now the film is done developing, and it's not going to develop anymore because we use the stop bath, right? Next step after the developer and the stop is the fixer. The fixer is the stinky chemical. The other ones don't really stink. Fixer kind of is stinky. So you pour it in, and we're basically doing the same process only for a shorter amount of time, for about 3 minutes. So you pour it in down the hole, put the top on. And then you start your timer, and then you agitate for 10 seconds to start. And now you don't need to, because the developing is done, you don't really need to worry about agitating it too hard. You could probably shake it and it'd be fine. If you mess something up, is it ruined and not recoverable? Good question. It depends. I guess the short answer is yes, but it depends on how you mess it up. Let's say you developed it for too long. It's not necessarily ruined, because film. So this is another thing to mention about film. In digital photography, you can shoot underexposed, meaning you can shoot so that the image coming out of your camera is darker than it should be, but you have with digital photography, you still have a ton of information in the shadows to work with. So like me personally, when I'm shooting digital for a client, I'm 95% of the time shooting underexposed. So I have that wiggle room of information. It is the opposite with film photography. With film photography, there's more information in the highlights. So if anything, you want to shoot overexposed for film photography. I'm not talking like 1 to 2 stops. I'm saying, which with some films, and this is the thing, every film is different. So some films like Portra 400, all those Portras, they can handle shooting 2 stops overexposed really well. Something like a Ilford HP5, not so much, but it does. But so for, I don't remember what I was saying. Yeah. Oh yeah. If you mess it up. So if you develop it for too long, not the end of the world, probably, because there's still a lot of information in the highlights. And you know what? Honestly, that's a good question, because I don't know, if you don't develop it enough, I honestly, you know what? That's a good question that I don't even know the answer to. I don't know if you can throw it back in the tank and develop it for a little bit longer. I've never had that question asked, to be completely honest. So I don't know. Was the photo developing scene in Ghostbusters accurate? I actually just rewatched that a couple months ago. The bursting in the flames, totally accurate. No, I'm kidding. No. I'd have to rewatch it. I'm assuming that it was fairly accurate. Those are professionals, you know. I feel like the filmmakers wouldn't portray something wrong. I don't know. Okay, so it's been 3.5 minutes. Fixer is done. So this is the next step, the rinse. So basically, the majority of the chemicals are done. So rinsing is the last step. So it's not rocket science, this part. You just want to fill it up enough, right? You pop the top on. You invert 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You open it up, dump it out. The bad thing about developing at home is I don't like using all this water. I feel bad. But they'd be doing it at a lab anyway, so I guess better me than them. So you do this 3 times. You do 5, 10, 20, and then you do it one more time with the wetting agent. So this is the second time, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And what this is doing is it's just rinsing off any remaining chemicals. How do you share your prints with others but digitally? So we'll get into that after we're done. After we hang this up, we'll go over some scanning and editing procedures. But once you scan and edit your photos, I just throw them up on Instagram. I've sold some prints before. I had a store up on my web. I still have a store up on my website, but I had prints up in the store for a while. No one ever bought them. Made me feel sad, so I pulled them down. But yeah, social media, website. That's how you do it. That's how you share your prints. My dear good friend Matthew Nordman on Instagram asks, how many rolls can you process with the amount of chemicals you get? So this tank is a 2-roll tank. So I can process 2 rolls. Oh, you're saying a bottle. How many rolls? Let's see. So this is a liter. and you use 16 milliliters per roll. Hey Google, how many milliliters are in a liter?
1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters.
Hey Google, what's 1,000 divided by 60?
The answer is approximately 16.666667.
16.66667 rolls of film. That's the answer, Matt. 16 rolls per bottle. All right, so this is the last time, and then this last time you just add just a little tiny squirt of wedding agent. So about that much. This lasts forever. Wedding agent lasts a very long time. Where do you get prints made in the city? Good question. I go to Latitude. It's a DIY print shop, and you can either send in files for them to print, or you can go in there and print yourself, and it's cheaper. Or you can. I've also sent to Print Lab, which is also, if you're not ready to develop black and white film at home, you can also, they develop black and white film once a week. So Print Lab and Latitude. So the last one you just invert 5 times. 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so, and then this is gonna be a little bubbly. I don't know if you can see that. The wedding agent is kind of like soapy. And it smooths it out. So now, that's it. That's it for now. Now you can take it out of the tank. If I can get it open. There we go. All right. So here it is, developed. Pop this little guy off. And then let's see if we can turn the camera here. So I'm very DIY with it, and I just, so you take the end of the film here, you start pulling it out. Right? And then I just hang my film from my fan in my kitchen to dry. All right. And then you have a little squeegee. Again, you can get this on B&H. Also not a necessary step, but I like to do it. You just squeegee excess liquid off of here, and then you add another clip to, if I can find where I put my clips. There we go. You add another clip to the end, the bottom of the film, and you let that dry, and that takes a couple hours, 2 hours, 3 hours or so. Let me answer it real quick before you pull up the video of the editing. Let me just answer these. Latitude gets mentioned a lot in these sessions. Can you explain who they are? Latitude is a nonprofit DIY print shop in the West Loopish area. They have people that will print prints for you. You can also become a member and go in there and print yourself, or you can go in on Saturdays and do half-price printing yourself, and they'll help you figure out how to print. And then Isaac J. Dioli on Instagram asked, what film do you use for this? This is Ilford HP5. All right, so now we are going to go over how to scan and edit your photos. So here we go. All right, so the program that I use is called Silverfast SE. It does cost money. I believe it's $50. If you buy an Epson V550, which is a film scanner, um, it's free. So you can see, you do a pre-scan and you get to see your image. So you can see there's this red frame. You just want to pull the red frame into the image that you are trying to scan. You want to kind of do it a little tight inside. You don't want any black around the edges, not quite yet. So there's this panel here called Nega Fix. The nice thing about Silverfast is that they have preset things for a bunch of different film vendors. You can see when I switched it to Ilford, it automatically switched to black and white because it knows that this image is black and white. So I just the film type drop down, switched it over to HP5 Plus. Then I always name my files by the camera that I used, the film that I used, and then the ISO I shot it at. So in this case, it's M6_HP5_1600. The resolution I pump up to about 3200. That'll be good if I ever want to print the image. So now we're going to zoom into it. You want to kind of go outside the frame for this bit. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you a higher resolution image to work with. So this does a little scan for you. And you can see it getting more resolutionized, technical term. So now it's scanned in full. You want to bring the frame back inside the actual frame of the image. And then with auto checked on, you can pull the exposure up and down. I think I want to bring the exposure up a little bit on this image. So I just pump it up just a tiny bit. The next thing I want to play with is not the densometer or the navigator. The navigator just shows you what frame you're on. But it's the picture settings. Now, I've found that Silverfast is, it scans in your scans very contrasty. So I always pull the contrast down in Silverfast. I like to scan in a flatter image, so I have more wiggle room when I'm editing in Lightroom. You can see that in the gradation panel with the tone, this is called the tone curve. When you pull the contrast, it's actually changing the tone curve in there. The unsharp mask, no. Neutral point, neutral point is more for color photography. That's like setting your color temperature. So I don't really use it. The pipette, you can choose a black point and a white point. Again, I'm doing this just to show you guys if you need to. Usually though, I try to preserve as much information in my scans as possible, so I have the most wiggle room in the editing process. That's the pipette. So yeah, it just basically I just undid the pipette stuff. Unsharp mask, you just leave it. You see in the highlights, there's a good amount. Oh yeah, there's not really much dust on this negative, or else I would be using the dust and scratch removal, ISRD. It's like super powerful. It does like 2 passes. It'll scan the image and then it'll do an infrared scan, figure out where the dust is, and then get rid of all the dust, because it's a physical thing. Dust, it's prone to dust. But because there's no dust in this guy, I am not going to use ISRD. So I'm going to tick it off. There you go. And yeah, so then it's ready to scan. I zoom back out, and then because I like to get all the information before you can pull the frame out, because if you pull the frame out and auto is still on, I'll show you what happens. It screws up all the levels. So I'll just undo that, and then before you pull that frame out, untick auto, and then you can pull that red frame out to scan in all that info. So yeah, I scan in TIFFs. I used to scan in JPEGs. If you're tight on space, you can scan in JPEGs. TIFFs are a bigger file size, but you have a lot more information to work with. So lately I've been going with TIFFs. And then if I'm scanning in a bunch, let's say this whole this whole series, I'll do a batch scan. But because I'm only scanning in one image, I'll just do a regular scan. You click scan and then it starts scanning. It's as simple as that. I know it's an abbreviated version of a scan, but when we have more time, I'll go over more. All right, so now we're in Lightroom. We got the image in Lightroom. It's flat. I got the whole frame. I have all the spool information. The first thing you always want to do is switch over to monochrome. So if there are any remnants of color in the film, you can get rid of it. Obviously, don't do that with a color film, but for a black and white film, yeah. For this, I want to try pumping up. I almost always do either a medium or strong contrast. That's the first thing I do. Because I scanned it in as a flat image, I want to reintroduce some of that contrast. And then I'll usually just pull the contrast slider up a little bit too. Just for ease of seeing this image's sake, I'm going to crop it in so it fills up more of the frame. All right, that's better. And then I'll bring the shadows. I'll play with the shadows. Honestly, like a lot of it, it's pretty good. Sharpening, usually for film, I go to about 60. I'll zoom in here real quick so you can see the difference it makes when you sharpen it. It really brings out a lot more detail. Flip back and forth for you to see. There's a zoom out and go back up. I'm never gonna, I don't play with grain or anything for film stuff because it has grain as is. So yeah, let's see, mess around with the highlights a bit. I mean, honestly, like it's pretty good as is, maybe just tweak it just a hair. Nothing to do with the blacks or the texture, clarity, dehaze, none of that. Don't really touch any of that. I kind of just try to let it live. One thing I almost always do though with my photos is I add radial filters to add a little bit of dynamic feel to the image. Kind of pull the viewer's eye to where I want. So I typically I'll like slightly blow out the highlights up there, and then I'll make a new one and I'll darken up this corner, this bottom right corner a bit. And then I'll right click duplicate and then just drag it over to the left corner so that it kind of, and I'll switch back and forth here so you can see how with the radial filters it kind of just pulls your eye to the middle of the frame, to the man in the middle. This is something I do to kind of like focus the viewer's eye. Now these corners are a little too dark here, so I kick them down a bit. But yeah, and then I'll I like to have the black frame around when I export my image, especially for something like Instagram or even for print. I'll just pull the crop out a hair, and then that's it. That's the finished image. Go ahead and export that, and bing, bang, boom. So yeah, so that's about it. Let's see. I have some questions on the site. What are your favorite subjects / locations to shoot? I typically always like to go downtown when I'm in Chicago. I'm obviously not right now, but there's usually a good amount of people around. Crowded places is usually my go-to. It's a lot easier to blend in and get some candid stuff. I typically I like to shoot. I'll wrap my camera strap around my hand, arm, I mean, and shoot. I'll carry it like this down low. You can't see it, but I'll carry it down low and shoot from the bottom. A lot of times when I'm shooting film photography, I'm zone focusing. So let's say I'm at F. I'll switch to F. For this case, F11, right? So basically, you can see these ticks on here. This is F22, 16, 11, 8, 4. So right now, 1 meter is in focus. But because I'm at F11, anything between 0.7 meters and 1.5 meters is in focus. If I go to here, anything between infinity and let's say 1.1 meter is in focus. And that's how I usually focus when I'm shooting around the city, especially with film. Because with a camera that's a manual focus, you have a split second to get a shot. So the majority of the time, I'm zone focusing, and just I know how this 28 millimeter lens feels, so I know how close or how far I need to get from a subject, and if I need to do it quick, I'll just get it in there and snap the shutter. I'm not fiddling around at my eye. Where did I learn photography? Where did I learn photography? Good question. I grew up, there's a photo that my parents like to show people of me in a diaper playing with a camera when I was about 1 or 2 years old. I've always shot photography. I went to school for film and video, then switched to graphic design with a minor in photography. And I've been shooting film since I was a kid. But yeah, I learned all this stuff I just showed you. I learned in college. Yeah, so that's how. Matt Nerdy on Instagram asks, how do you get the film borders in the scan? I use a special frame made by Lomography called the Digitaliza, and it's a special frame. It's third party. You can go to the Lomography website, and it allows you to scan in the whole film strip. That's the frame I use. You can use the frame that comes with the scanner, but that's the frame I use. How much do you crop the image in to avoid getting the celluloid in your image? I crop it in just inside the actual frame while I'm scanning. And then once all my levels are right, I pull it back out to scan the whole strip because I like to have that wiggle room if I want to use it. Where's the link to donate? The link to donate is right here. Donate. It's I can't really see the whole thing. spot.fund/ SWorks prom fund. And I think yeah, that's about it. Again, my name is Vince DeSantiago. I'm from Chicago, born and raised. I live in Portage Park. If you want to follow me on Instagram, my handle is Vince DeSantiago. If you want to check out my website is www.vincedesantiago. And let me show you real quick before we go. This is the finished film. It's weird because I'm trying to do it backwards. Anyway, yeah, so okay, let's see. I don't know, can you see it against my t-shirt? Yeah, I don't know if you can see it. Anyway, so yeah, thank you so much. Thank you to SocialWorks for having me. Thank you for tuning in. Again, if you want to donate, the link is right here. If you want to check me out, my name is Vince DeSantiago. Peace. See you later. Stay safe.
Social works, 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 yeah, S works, everyone put it in their hands. You know it's a vibe, they're waiting in line to get up and flood up the stands. Yeah, we in this together, we feeling like fam. It's all about peace, so pull up with friends. You better come through with you and your crew, cause everybody going in. S works, so we keep it lit. You can see how we move the city from the west side to the east. Ooh, you can feel how we leave through. It's all about the youth. Change the world through the tunes. Make the world to a better place. And S works what we do.
Social works, social works, social works, social works, social works. Social works. Keep my family out the dirt. This organization, we stopping no Satan and open, but we call it Works. Action on Taylor the killer verses. I doing my film, my city hurt. They killing our babies, this work going crazy. I pray for my city to reimburse. Private schools for the kids.